What I decided to speak on is saints and sinners.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally the opposite. And the reason for this is on the basis of all spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
even religion, the word or the information is that, wait a minute, let me back up. I'm gonna start at point. Saints and sinners, because one was bad, hell fire and brimstone was created for it. It is what happens to sin. It is cast into the lake of fire and brimstone.
Yeah.
And because of that, there had to be given an option where it all just wouldn't go to bad. So the option came when his son chose to come here and redeem us for those that would receive it, would redeem them, would be able to redeem them
Mm-hmm.
from sin as a
True.
remission for sin, to cleanse them of their sin. He would die for their sins and shed his blood
Mm-hmm.
to clear their sins, because the sin was going to be cast into fire and brimstone.
That's right. Yes.
Now here comes the dilemma for each and every one of us. And I'll get into the even interesting part later. The question then is fire and brimstone or glory? One of the two. Based on which I am, a saint or a sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Sin goes into the fire and brimstone, saints return to God.
That's right. Yeah.
So then it comes down to, what am I? What am I? Am I a saint or am I a sinner? If I want to go to heaven, it requires that I be a saint.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be a sinner and go to heaven.
No, you can't.
There has to, that got to be covered. We're coming down again back to Jesus. And this was the only way said or given for the remission of sin. Had to be cleansed of it. So what happened, in fact, with Jesus, what it was God himself says, I'm going to do what I require man to do. I'm going to be a man of my word.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a God of my word. So I'm going to give him my word that this is how it will be with me. For all of those that would receive, or any of those that would receive my word, then it shall be a remission of sin for them.
Mm-hmm.
But they gotta accept my word for it. You can't treat my word like I'm lying to you.
Yes.
I'm giving you my word. So therefore, when the word, as many of us know it, came into the world, and it told us what God was saying, what he said to us.
Mm-hmm.
I shall give my blood for the remission of sin, for those that believeth on me. What he taught had to be, as he said, followed.
Yeah.
Not talked about, but you got to follow this word that I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to follow it. You got to listen to it, use it, work it.
That's
However, that was a thing I got with the disciples, because the disciples were men and they were used to the way men did things and knew things and thought things and all of that.
yes.
So it brought about on different occasions when Jesus would say, "Do you still not understand?
That's right.
You still don't understand. You don't understand this?" They had a problem understanding, which means they didn't really get it. One of them trusted it, but he still didn't quite get it. However, coming to the important stuff, what am I? And how can I say that I'm this thing? I don't need to be lying to myself. I need to know what I am, a sinner or a saint. For many, and this really get down to the gravy here, because you're supposed to know many saints.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of those that claim the blood of Christ is supposed to be saints.
Right.
But they will tell you, and they hold to it, that even you is too. Sin. You are a sinner. I am a sinner. We all are sinners, so they say. That no one has listened to Jesus and did what Jesus said and became a saint. Because, again, the thing is, there had to be a transition from before I did to after I did.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a sinner before I accepted Jesus, I cannot be a sinner afterwards.
That's right.
I cannot be a sinner if I don't accept Jesus. However, because I have not accepted Jesus is the reason I can tell you I'm a sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Can't nobody do that. So we all are sinners. But that's according to a sinner.
Yes.
What do a sinner know? What can they possibly know about God if they are a sinner?
Nothing.
Who do they have to teach them about God if they are a sinner? And if they listening to Jesus, they could not still be a sinner. However, there is an understanding and even explanation to why it is that way. And it comes by even the way Jesus taught it, the way he taught it. And he mentioned, he says in the last days, which I'm going to get to that. He said in the last days, many false Christs will have risen.
Right.
Where later, after Paul, on in the New Testament, they began to be called antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
But an antichrist and a false prophet is and a false Christ is the same thing. The names kind of change, but
Same thing.
a false Christ. A false Christ is a person that would tell you that they're about Christ, but they doing totally the opposite of what Christ would do. They anti what they talking about.
Mm-hmm. They're not a follower.
They're not a follower. They are a talker and a liar on that. However, again, finding out what I am, because that's what it boils down to. Not what nobody else see me, say about me, think about me. My concern is how my Father see me, how my Lord and Savior see me.
That's right.
So it come down to how do they see me. If I hold to unholy things versus holy things, then this is an indication that I am a false Christ.
That's right. Yep.
Let me tell you about some marks that you can tell if it's a false Christ or not, if it's an antichrist or not. You can go into his place of worship. And remember, there was places that people considered their place of worship during Jesus' time,
Mm-hmm.
such as the temple he went into and overturned the tables.
Right.
They felt that was their house of worship.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's called what it was supposed to be and what it was, and it wasn't the same thing. He called his Father's house a house of prayer, but he says, you have made it a den of thieves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those den of thieves would be predominant in an area of predominant false Christ. False Christ will go to den of thieves. They're not gonna, because if they go to a house of God, they will not come out of it
That's the way they went.
the same way they went in. Not unless they went in as a saint, because this is a house of saints. This is a worship place of saints,
Right.
not of sinners. So you come in a sinner, you don't leave out a sinner, or it ain't did you no good. When you returning as a saint, not a sinner.
That's right.
But if you're not a saint, you can't return as now.
That's right.
So you will just return back to a den of thieves because you still a sinner.
How true that is. And so many of us do that.
Now, for me, if I'm going to even a den of thieves, it is with a belief that I'm worshiping God and I'm good. It is with that belief.
Yes.
However, then it becomes important to know whether or not my belief is actually in vain of things. Because ain't no need in me going up here worshiping God. And then it comes a day that I feel I'm wanting to enter into the kingdom of glory.
Right.
And yet I hear, I know not you, you that work iniquity. Because that ass then is for the fire.
Right.
So my efforts in this house, I need to make sure they are valid. Otherwise, it wasn't no need me going in that house.
True.
Ain't even needing getting a job to make money and working and you ain't getting no paycheck. Ain't no need in going to God's house and not get what God said he had for you. And these people that go to these den of thieves, these false Christs, you look and you see the sinner doing better than they are. Now it's all about the money. You gotta have money, they tell you to do, right? But here the sinner is, he making more money than you. If I done ask God to bless me with some money, he done blessed me with $30,000. He done blessed this drug man with 70. So again, being careful, making sure I know where I am, rather than going through it, faking it, and pretending it, because the bottom issue is I ain't gonna get nothing out of that other than the fire.
That's for sure. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. Yes.
Well,
all that.
Here was interesting, even with Jesus. And I'm going to show you how different it is. In a house of prayer, the Father is honored. In a den of thieves, the mother is honored. In that house, they honor the mother. In the house of prayer, they only honor the father, but they recognize the mother. But the whole point of the mother is about the father. Where, on the other hand, with a den of thieves, the mother is the main thing, and you even have to embrace her to be able to embrace the father, because she is above the father even. Right. This, the mother, she carried precedent. Yeah. It is the very reason why Catholics feel like they can go to Mary to go to Jesus. Because of the culture, of overall, basically, the culture that feels that the woman, the mother, is more than the man. Mother is the principal parent. Right. The dad is the secondary parent. But that's only in a den of thieves. In a house of prayer, the father is the dad, is the principal head.
Should be anyway. Supposed to.
And the mother is the secondary. However, moving on and trying to stay point, where, again, if I go to embrace a willingness for God, it says the only way to him is by his word. You want to get with me, you take me for my word. You honor my word, man. And you come to me like I told you to come to me. Anything else, he's God. He don't have to
That's right.
accept nothing.
That's right. He's going forward. That's it.
So
Hallelujah.
how do I know, again, if I'm in the Word? If I am of the world, if I am of the world, I am worldly. If I am worldly, I can talk all I want to. He ain't hearing it because worldly is what he said don't be.
That's right.
But if I'm about that, that's the first clue of what I am. If my concerns are the same ones the world is concerned about, then I am worldly.
Not true.
However, think it would go back to Adam.
Oh.
The problem spans back to Adam. And for many, do not realize what actually occurred. But the first thing, I guess, in this matter that would interest is the fact of Adam was given dominion.
Yes, he was.
And what dominion means, he was given responsibilities.
So yes, he was.
He was given responsibilities, and he was responsible
All of it.
for how man would come out, what man would be.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was tested
Mm-hmm.
to see if he would hold up, Adam fell.
Big time.
He didn't fall like most people feel. He failed the test, whether or not he will be responsible or not, whether or not he's responsible or not.
He wasn't.
And in return, when he was tested, he shunned the responsibility and put it on Eve. Eve being of him, she shunned the responsibility and put it on the serpent.
Mm-hmm.
They failed the test. They was not worthy to be in the garden, so they was put out.
Yes.
Now, what Adam did, the people that hold to what Adam did are irresponsible people. They don't want to look as none of this being on them. It's on somebody else. So in his growth of being irresponsible, shunning the responsibility, man decided, and this came off of the tree now.
Yes.
The tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Was what would man do with the knowledge? Would he do good or would he do evil? So man already have failed the test from the door. He laid the responsibility on the door. What happened then? His failure was so bad at it, he decided, since we're not listening to God, we're gonna have to listen to somebody. So they sought and decided to hire another man to make decisions for the whole. Whoever man it was, we agree on, we'll let that man be responsible for us. And so it carried down even to this day when we call those men politicians and preachers and all these other, when it's still no different than it was in the beginning. With who will take responsibility that I gave them? Who will hold responsible for it?
Wow.
But he's God.
Right.
If I trip me out, was reading in Isaiah, and it was where the Lord said he'd been brought up in the presence of the Lord and the angels. He said, the Lord said, who will go and do this thing for me? And he said, I will. I will. I will. However, again, it came to a point where man is so thrown off from me. Who will actually help him get it? Who will I send to help him get it? I don't remember saying I will, but apparently I did. But apparently I did.
Yes.
However, the balance of everything, as far as this world goes, it is on the responsibility of man as a whole to what he do with it, what he want with it. Do he want it as it is, or do he actually want it for all it's supposed to be? And that's where reprobate mind kicks in, because reprobate mind would tell me it can't be no better than it is. It's got to be worse. It's going to be worse.
Yeah, with that mind, that. Oh, yes.
Wow, you get hard talking to, man. But I'm going to, I guess, stick with this, man, and try to stick with the subject at hand. And that is, what am I? Am I a sinner or am I a saint?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm dealing with or feeling, believing, thinking that I'm dealing with any of the godly stuff, then I need to be a saint. I don't need to be a sinner. Even though it should not be comfortable with them, and I'm sure it wouldn't be if they really knew either. But the only sinners that they're actually supposed to be is atheists and Gnostics.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe that.
That's right.
However, all the rest that claims to believe it, they supposed to be different than the Gnostics and the atheists. If you're no different than a Gnostic or atheist, again, where do that tell you your ass is going when you leave here? You ain't going to heaven. If you want to go to heaven, you got to find out how to do that. Because you don't get in there on wishful thinking.
No, you don't.
On believing, none of that. Yeah. Opinion ain't going to get you into heaven.
Yeah, you got to show yourself approved.
Got to find out.
That's right.
So you will know what you have to do to get in here. You can't just go any kind of way.
No.
So, if that is something that you're supposed to be about, wanting to be about, I'm going to help you get there. I can help you get there, whether you believe that or not. And of course, you might not because you're a sinner. You don't believe in holy shit. You want to, think you do and supposed to, but you actually don't. It's why the state of the world is as it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's why we're dealing, even as individuals, with all of the unholiness that is very present around us without cease.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It is a way
Oh,
to
yes.
get rid of it. It is a way
Almost
to
like
fix it. It
yeah.
is a way to change it.
Almost like it's got like Solomon Gomorrah days. This world is. My
Speaking
God.
of Sodom and Gomorrah,
Boy.
I'm going to speak of a opposite place too. A opposite place and time of Sodom and Gomorrah. Because we know what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. But let's say the other place that was totally different. And many don't really hear about it for what it is. They're going to dwell on the bad. But this is the good. And this was at the time or after Solomon asked God for what he needed to guide his people.
Yes.
God gave him that. Solomon used that so the people were like that. The state of a people that's under the obedience of God is a totally different state. The state of Israel under Solomon was in the ballpark of the Garden of Eden. It was in the ballpark. Wasn't quite Garden of Eden, but it was in the ballpark of the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Because they were took or brought in a way of obedience to God.
That's right. Oh, wow. Boy.
Both places have existed. Even one place was supposed to be the continuous existence, where the other place wasn't supposed to exist at all. Just say in the creation of things, in the scheme of things, Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't even supposed to exist. The Garden of Eden is what was supposed to exist. But again, behind the fall of man, behind the fall of sin, he would know Sodom and Gomorrah and not the Garden of Eden. There was no short, lacking, none of that in Israel under Solomon.
Yes.
Nobody was short, wasn't sick.
That's right.
Wasn't none of the lying and thieving and all the corruption. Wasn't no corruption under the time of Solomon.
Yes.
However, again, the people was following somebody that God had called.
Yes.
They wasn't following nobody who called themselves for God.
That's true, brother. You're right. You better get started on this. Not like yesterday. Get your mind cleared, get focused, and put it to work. So many people want to hear that. Need to hear that in this time, this day and time. Yes. People need to hear that.
I'm on to work at this. And I'm very good at what I do. This I'll do, but there'll only be one problem. Could be only one problem to stopping me from doing it. The only thing that can stop it is you. That's it. My only opposition. Not you as a whole, but you as an individual can stop it from me from being able to do that for you. Want to go back a little bit here and help you understand some things. Scripture says, actually, I even remember it. It's one of the most popular verses. All right, sister, sleep well. It was the most popular verse of the New Testament. And that was John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Through him, they might be saved. They would be saved. I want to go speak of this. In order to give something, there is a requirement. There is a requirement to be able to give something. If you don't know what the requirement is, I got to help you. In order to give something, it has to be received. You haven't given it if they didn't receive it. If they did reject it, they didn't want it, it got lost, or somebody stole it before they got it, it wasn't given because it wasn't received. So here in John 3:16, let me make a correction on this. And that is, for God so loved the world that he offered his only begotten Son. He didn't give him, he offered him. It was on the individual whether they would receive it or not, accept it or not. And again, based on the testimony of especially those that go by the doctrine that I do, they say, as the Bible do, that he died for our sins. And I'm going to tell you who the we was in a minute. Help you get that part, because just because you say that we, you don't decide. I don't decide. I only can play for me, which would be the definition that would fit me. If I received it, then yeah, I can say me. If I didn't, then I can't say that. I be lying on him. And I don't need to do that on him, especially if I don't need to do it on you. I don't need to lie to you, lie on you. I definitely don't need to lie on him